Hey, it's Dave from CG Shortcuts. Today, we're going to do this. We're going to create this stop motion clay looking type in Cinema 4D. Okay, so here we are in Cinema 4D. The first thing we want to do is set the project up. We'll go 1920 by 1080 HD, and we'll set the frame rate to 24 frames a second. We'll also need to set the project settings to 24 frames a second. You can do that by hitting Ctrl D and typing it in here. Now we want to create our text. We'll go up to mograph and click on the mo text. We'll set the alignment to middle and the depth to 50 centimeters. We'll type something fun in the text box, and let's pick a nice original font, like trusty old Arial. We'll give it a bit more height and we'll add some caps. We'll choose fillet caps or fillet caps, whatever you like. Let's put the radius up to 15 centimeters on both sides. And because we want the shape to be nice and round like clay, we should also click Create Single Object and Rounding UVW Keep Shape. And while we're at it, we should probably select quadrangles here and give it a bit more geometry to play with. We'll turn on regular grid and we'll put the width up to 30 centimeters, so that's nice and even. Now is probably a good time to start smoothing this out, so we'll add a subdivision surface. If we hold Alt when we click, it should become the parent of our mo text, which is what we want. And it's starting to look nice and smooth now, maybe a little bit too smooth. We want these letters to look cartoony and like they're made out of clay. So let's go back over to Object and fix this up. We want to set the intermediate points to subdivided, the angle up to 90 degrees, and we'll put 40 centimeters in maximum length. And that's looking much better. Looks like it's made of Play-Doh or something. Okay, let's have a look at our render. So we've got the basic shapes sorted out. We just have to add the wiggly stop motion texture and a bit of animation. We want the letters to bounce on in a cartoony way. So while we've got our mo text selected, which I've renamed Fun, we'll go up and select the plane effector under the mograph menu and scooch over to fall off. We want to change the shape to linear and the orientation to -X. Right, so you can see the effect starting to take place. We just want these letters to sort of scale up from nothing. So we'll go over to parameter and change the scale to uniform, and we'll make it -1. So now you can see they're scaling in one at a time. But we want them to look nice and cartoony, so we'll add a bit of position and rotation. So -52, I think, in the y-axis, and we'll put 90 degrees in pitch. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. Let's animate this bad boy. Let's put our plane effector over here so we don't see any of the text, and add a keyframe on the x-axis, and then we'll drag it along until all the letters pop on, and add another keyframe. So we've got something like this, which is way too slow. Let's move this keyframe back to frame 13 and give it another try. It might look a bit fast, but when we add the bounce, it's going to look cool. To do that, we need to make sure we have our text selected. Then this time we'll add a delay effector from the mograph menu. You might also just want to double check that the effectors are being applied to the letters, not the words or the lines. Alright, let's go back to our delay effector and we will set the mode to spring and check that out. Looking nice and springy. Let's have another quick look at our render because I think we're missing something. You can see here that the letters don't come to a complete stop. They continuously sort of wiggle around there. That's easy to do. We just have to select our text again, and this time we're going to add a random effector. That's probably a bit too much, so we'll bring all the positions down to about 5 centimeters, and we'll switch on the rotation and make that 5 degrees each. Okay, they've moved randomly, but they're not animating yet. We just need to switch back to the effector tab and change the mode to noise. Alright, that looks cool. They're jiggling around there now. The next step is to add a bit of jiggle to the geometry itself. Let's select our text again, and we'll go up to the Create menu. And this time we're going to select the displacer deformer. If we hold Shift, it'll become a child of our text, which is not quite what we want. Let's just pull it out and move it right here like this. Okay, we'll go to our displacer, we'll go into shading, We'll select noise from the shader drop down and we'll go into our noise shader. Now you can see the surface of our text is pretty distorted. The noise is probably a bit too noisy. So let's crank up the global scale, maybe to about 200. I'll just play with this. I think about 200 is fine for now. So that's starting to look like little lumps of clay. Let's have another quick look at the render. You can see it has a stop motion kind of look to it, so we don't want the deformation to animate too smoothly. So if we come down here, I'll show you what I mean. If we add, say, 10 into animation speed, it doesn't look very stop motion-y, it kind of looks a bit slimy. So what we can do is turn that back to 0 and come up here to the seed. We want to animate this so the seed changes every 2 frames, so we get a different noise on every second frame. We'll set the seed to 0 at frame 0 and we'll shrink the timeline down to 60. And at the end, on the 60th frame, we'll set the seed to 30, which should hopefully give us that stop motion kind of look. All right, we're almost there. It looks a little bit funky because our keyframes are easing in and out, but we can fix that. Let's right click and go to Animation, Show F Curves. If you hit Ctrl A to select all the keys, this button makes them linear. All right, that's looking better. All we have to do now is a bit of lighting and shading, and for that, we're going to use Octane Renderer. You could use the standard Cinema 4D renderer, it's pretty much the same setup, but I've been using Octane lately and I'm digging it. So let's fire up the Octane Live Viewer window and hit this button to get it started. We'll add a HDR environment and we'll use a free HDR image from the internet. I'll put a link in the description down below. We don't want it seen by the camera, so we'll throw in a texture environment as well. And we'll set that to be visible, but not affect the lighting. Okay, let's make a shader. We'll make a glossy one. Double click that and open up the node editor. We'll give it a red color and a little bit of roughness. 0.25 should do nicely. Apply that to our text. We'll quickly chuck in an Octane camera, and in the camera tag, we'll go to the camera imager and turn up the exposure to 3. Okay, that's looking kind of cool, but I think our displacer is still a bit noisy. Let's go back into our noise shader and turn the global scale up a bit. Okay, that's looking good. So there's just one more thing to do. We need to add a bit of texture to the shader. So we'll go back to our node editor, and then in the bump channel, we want to add a bit of noise. We'll just zoom in a little bit here. We're not seeing too much just yet. We'll try putting the global scale up to 120%. We're still not seeing too much just yet, so what we might do is add a bit of contrast so we can see our noise a bit better. Let's grab a color correction node and plug the noise in, and then we'll plug that into the bump, and we'll crank that contrast up to 7. Okay, we can see it now, it's looking good. We just need to give it that same stop motion kind of look. So let's go and grab our displacer again, and what we can do is copy the animation straight out of our noise shader. So right click and go Animation and Copy Track. Then we'll just paste that into the noise in our shader. And just to finish it off, we might tweak that displacer one more time. Still not quite right on the global scale, but I think 551 is about right. And there you go, all done. Don't forget you can download the project file below to save a bit of time. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see in the comment section below. Or you can leave a like or dislike. And don't forget to subscribe and click on that little bell icon for more videos and free stuff. Catch you next time.